Welcome to our Magdeburg dinner this evening. I hope you all have your first beer open. Let me pull up my remarks here. So I'm Sarah Lingo. I'm the Executive Director of Sister Cities of Nashville. And we are so glad you're joining in for our virtual beer dinner this evening, celebrating our sister city, Magdeburg, Germany. I hope you enjoy the beer, the food, the presentations, the music, and hopefully in a little bit, the conversation. I'll go over video etiquette really quickly. Please plan to keep your microphones muted throughout the presentations, unless you're the one interacting, of course, especially through the Consul General's presentation. I would like everyone to be able to hear that. You're welcome to keep your videos on during the program. You're also welcome to turn them off, whatever you're comfortable with. If you haven't already done so, please open your first bottle of beer. That's the Nashville Original Lager. If you're already drinking, awesome. You are here to do what you're here to do. So if you're not, open that bottle. So if you haven't preheated your oven yet, please go ahead and do that to 375. You should be popping in your pretzels right about now to have them ready to go in a few minutes. So go ahead and do that if you haven't already. So as you might imagine, this is a Zoom call. It's a Zoom dinner. It will be fluid. Please excuse any virtual bumps along the road. It's not our first Zoom meeting, but it is just our second dinner together. So please forgive us if there's any weirdness along the way. I do want to thank our sponsors, the sponsors of Sister Cities of Nashville, Nashville Electric Service, Cat Financial, Sherrard and Rowe Law, Wiseman Ashworth Law Firm, and the Nashville Chamber of Commerce for their continued support this year. It has been a very strange year, and we are very grateful for those of you that continue to engage with our programming. So thank you for that. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. As you know, Sister Cities is a nonprofit organization focused on connecting the people of Nashville to the people of the world through education, cultural exchange, and so many other different activities like the one we're doing tonight. So we rely on the support of people like you to keep our programming going. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking and turn it over to Magdeburg Chair Tom Elmlinger. We'll get started and make sure those pretzels are in the oven.
Thank you, Sarah. Sarah's our new executive director this year. Not so new anymore, but I'm sure she had no idea what she was signing up for when she started this and the pandemic hit. But she has just done a great job of keeping us all focused on the mission of Sister Cities. And I just can't say enough about how much she has been an asset to the whole organization. But guten Abend und herzlich willkommen. Good evening and welcome. I'm Tom Emlinger. I'm chair of the Magdeburg Committee and a board member of Sister Cities of Nashville. Of course, you know, as I said, when we kicked off programming back in January, we had no idea we were going to have to cancel exchanges, live in-person exchanges, but we've still been able to move forward with our mission with the help of Sarah and Claire Coleman and a great board and all the wonderful volunteers that we have and members. And that is connecting the people of Nashville to the people of the world, promoting peace, cooperation, and understanding, and best of all, creating and maintaining the lasting friendships that we've formed through Sister Cities. We just had to go about things a little differently this year, but nevertheless, we've stayed on ball, I think, and stayed on course. So, which of course is why we're here tonight. Magdeburg is one of our 9 sister cities in 8 countries on 5 different continents, and Nashville and Magdeburg have a history that goes back even before 2003, when our formal sister city relationship began. We've shared many cultural exchanges, visits, celebrations, activities, and opportunities for people from both our cities to learn about and to learn from each other. Like many of these sister city relationships, the Nashville-Magdeburg connection grew out of a series of personal contacts and friendships that developed into informal exchanges and finally official sister city status in 2003. This partnership has featured a strong and active high school student exchange, as well as artistic, musical, cultural, and many other social services exchanges. I've always had a very strong connection to Germany. My name is Elmlinger. It's a good German name, and I've got German roots on both sides, my mother and father. got some ancestors named Fonsler and Ritter, and it's all throughout the family tree. And I studied German in college and spent a year and a half in West Berlin back in the 80s. I've been to Magdeburg twice, but never actually on an official Sister Cities visit, except sort of with my son, who was on a student exchange. I went to visit him while he was there in 2017. I was also there in the 1990s just to see. I went back to Berlin because I had not been there in a dozen years. And since that time, the wall had fallen and the country had been reunited. And I just wanted to see what was going on in these former East German Bundesländer. And I went to Dresden, Chemnitz, and Magdeburg just to check out what was going on. But anyway, and when I was there in 2017, the people were just wonderful. The host families invited me to come to their homes, and we had a great time. And I even had one person give me an informal tour of the city, which was just a really great experience. But tonight, we're all going to have the opportunity to enjoy some German-style food, beer, and Gemütlichkeit, which is an untranslatable German word that means just a good atmosphere and having a good time. But we're going to share this dinner together, and I especially want to welcome and thank Counselor Steffi Meyer from Magdeburg, who really is making a Herculean effort to be here. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, I think, German time. It is, and this week is sort of an anomaly. We only have a 6-hour time difference between us and Magdeburg right now because they've already switched over to standard time from daylight savings time, and we have not yet switched. So the Zeitumstellung was last week in Germany, but it's here next week or this weekend in Tennessee. I also want to thank Consul General Frau Dr. Heike Fuller, who is here from Atlanta at the invitation of Doug Barry, who's just been a tremendous asset to this organization as well. He's the honorary German consul for Tennessee and a former board member. And if there's one person who was responsible for getting this relationship started with Magdeburg, you'd have to say it was Doug Barry back in the 90s. So it's at least on our side, on our side of the Atlantic. I also want to thank and recognize Nashville Vice Mayor and Sister Cities Poet Laureate, Jim Schulman, who is a fixture at nearly all these events. And we're just so glad that he's able to join us. And council member and former co-chair of the Magdeburg Committee, Berkeley Allen, who really has been terrific to me. This is my first year chairing the committee. I've been on the committee for about 5 years. And she and board member and former co-chair Joel Dark have been just fantastic in getting me up and running in this new position. And then Nashville Brewing Company, Scott Murdy. Scott, I just can't say enough about what he has done. I started out saying that I had the idea for this, but I really stole it from the Mendoza, Argentina committee and just Germanized it. And then Scott just took it and ran with it. It was just like, oh, okay, this is great. I really don't have to do anything, So, and then Elrod's and its owner, Austin Ray and Hillary Holmes, who have just been wonderful to work with and get this whole thing going. And of course, Polkawagen, Nashville's very own polka band. We're so delighted that they're going to be here. I think that's going to add a lot to the experience. And none of this would have been possible without all of your efforts and, of course, your support and participation. A portion of the proceeds goes to support Sister Cities, but it's not really about that. It's not a significant part of our fundraising, believe me, but it's still, every little bit helps. It's really more about the connections and keeping people involved. So, as they say in Northern Germany, nicht lange schnacken, Koppen nacken, which means literally translated, it doesn't really mean much, but loosely translated, it's enough talk, let's start drinking. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Murdy, our beer brewer. And Scott, take it from here.
All right. Thank you, Tom. I'm Scott Murdy. I've been a member of Nashville Sister Cities for quite a few years now. I've really enjoyed what everything Sister Cities has to offer. I'm a partner at Craft CPAs here in Nashville, and we've been fortunate to do Sister Cities audit for a number of years. But I'm also the owner of Nashville Brewing Company. So I hope everyone enjoys the beers that we're going to have today. And we're going to talk about each individual beer a little bit later. But I've really enjoyed my relationship with Nashville Sister Cities. I had the opportunity to travel to Mendoza a couple years ago, and I think we have a few other people. David and Susie Butler are on here today, so hello to them. They my travel buddies, and enjoy traveling with them to Mendoza, and look forward to going the opportunity to go to Germany here as soon as things open up, and nurture that relationship with our sister city there. So I'm going to turn it over to Hillary now, and we're going to talk about our first course, and she'll talk about the food, then I'll jump back in and talk about the beer pairing. Then after that, we'll have some other discussions, and then we'll do a formal toast. But right now, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Hillary with Von Elrod's to talk about our first course.
Thank you, Scott. Definitely appreciate your beer to pair with this. We are starting with a very classic Bavarian style pretzel. It does mean it's a little bit thicker. It's got that nice alkaline crust from the sodium hydroxide. You can totally make that at home. I know it sounds scary with just baking some baking powder, make it a little bit more alkaline. We do hand make all of these pretzels. So if you notice any irregularities, any slight difference in the shape, it is because they are from scratch, hand rolled and baked for you. Also, I know it's not traditional, but we did include that Bear Walker brown mustard for you because we love to partner it. But we also have that whipped butter, which is a little bit more traditional to keep it going. I really don't have a whole lot to say, Scott. Pretzels are just, they're pretzels. They're amazing, and they're one of our staples that we just love.
All right, so I hope everyone is enjoying their pretzels right now. They're all heated, and everyone's eating them with either the mustard or the butter. The beer that we have pairing with that is our traditional Nashville lager. It's our flagship beer. We call it a Nashville lager just as a basic name, but the style is a Munich or a Bavarian Helles. And Helles is German. Of course, I don't have to tell our German friends on the Zoom call here, but for the folks that don't speak German, Helles is German for light or bright. And as you can see, it's a very bright golden lager, very traditional to the Bavarian region of Germany. This actual style came about in the 1880s. Prior to that, most beers were much darker, and really the Pilsner style was the first light lager, and then the Germans couldn't stand that the Czechs had that light Pilsner, and they wanted to compete with it, so they came out with the Bavarian Helles. So that's what we're drinking today, very traditional Bavarian beer. As you could taste it and kind of get that smell, it's bready, you kind of get that biscuit flavor. It goes perfect with the pretzel that we're having today. So enjoy that, and I'm going to turn it over to Council Member Berkeley Allen, who is going to introduce our next guest.
Thanks, Scott. It is my great pleasure to introduce the father of the Magdeburg Nashville German Sister Cities relationship. Doug Berry did the research and located just the perfect city for us to pair with. And I believe he has been named Magdeburg of the Year, maybe multiple times. He's been there many, many times and has done yeoman's duty, building the relationship and introducing the rest of us to this wonderful city that we've enjoyed getting to know, and is responsible for my having hosted some 20-something students from Magdeburg, and it's been a pleasure every single time. So I am grateful for all that Doug has done to build this relationship, and would turn it over to him to introduce our guest of honor.
Thank you very much, Berkeley. It's so wonderful to see everyone, and needless to say, I did not do this alone, and certainly with your help. I think that you hold the all-time record for hosting guests long-term and short-term. I may be second. And you and Joel Dark, your yeoman's work in bringing this committee forward, and of course Tom, thank you for your great introductory remarks. And it's good, just great to see everyone. Welcome Steffi Meyer, our good buddy from Magdeburg. You need to know this about Steffi. Her email is Sportfan Meyer. So Steffi's a big sports fan. The only year I was in the Magdeburg of the Year competition, I actually came in third, and the guy who won it was a guy named Stefan Kretschmar, who was played team handball for Magdeburg, and I'm wearing my autographed Stefan Kretschmar handball jersey. Uh-oh. Did I miss it?
No, keep going.
I don't know what, we seem to have lost our video here. Uh-oh.
You're good. We can still see you.
You still see me or hear me? Anyway, excuse me, I kind of lost my train of thought. But it's been a wonderful, 20 years. The first time I was there was in 1993. You can imagine, 2.5 years after the wall came down and the changes that have been made. It's such a well-run, well-governed, great little city, and we've enjoyed the relationship. It's been so beneficial to me. It's been my pleasure to be German Honorary Consul in Tennessee since 2004, and I have served under or with 5 different consuls general, all great, and none more so than my current boss in matters diplomatic, Dr. Heike Fuller. She has her resume, it reads like a James Bond movie. Her postings have been in Kigali, Rwanda, and Cairo, and Tokyo, and Lisbon, and just a great leader for our regional core. And I've enjoyed working with her very much. So without further ado, let me introduce Dr. Fuller, and I know she has some congratulatory remarks for this group. Heike?
Yes, thank you very much, Doug. And as always, you are too kind and too generous introducing me, and definitely not your boss, but hopefully your dear partner.
I like boss better.
I can only echo Thomas when he said, you are really a great asset for the consul general in Atlanta. You all know that we have a huge jurisdiction, and without the honorary consuls, we could really not function. So welcome everybody. Herzlich willkommen, guten Abend. I'm very delighted that you invited me tonight to this very special digital meeting. I think in times when some of us already feel a certain Zoom fatigue, this Magdeburg Bier evening or dinner is a lovely change. So as Doug kindly told me, Steffi Meyer, Mr. Schulman, Mr. Allen, Mr. Koller, and of course all of you who are very engaged supporters of this Magdeburg Nashville dinner, thank you very much for being so engaged and filling this very special German-American bond with life. Not only during these challenging times of COVID, but even more so in the framework of the German-American relations, a partnership that is in more recent times, I would say, in stress. Events like the one tonight are of utmost importance. There is nothing that could demonstrate, to my opinion, more clearly that people-to-people encounter, eating good food together, enjoying an excellent Nashville or German beer are the most precious and lasting bonds that Germans and Americans share, even in more challenging times like today. Town twinnings, like the very active partnership between Nashville and Magdeburg, offer a very special tool of urban diplomacy. Town twinnings are boots on the ground to open up the hearts of people. They succeed in interesting Germans and Americans to interact, gain a deeper understanding for each other, and foremost, to have fun together. And I think you all have this tonight. To all of you who made this digital evening possible, please stay as enthusiastic and engaged so that you can carry on this precious partnership further for many years to come. In doing this, you are not only excellent cultural and urban diplomacy ambassadors, but also a great inspiration for the German-American relations and the German-American friendship. And this is very valuable to us. Enjoy this evening and please stay all healthy. Personally, I have to admit, and I hope you don't hold this against me, I'm not a beer drinker, but I'm a wine drinker. And therefore I say Prost und alles Gute to everyone. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Cheers, Prost. Thank you.
Let's sing I'm Prosa together. Are you ready? I'm Prosa, I'm Sicky saki, sicky saki, hoi, hoi, hoi. Sicky saki, hoi, hoi, hoi. Sicky saki, hoi, hoi, hoi. Super.
Oh my goodness. On that note, if you haven't started reheating your main course, please go ahead and start doing that. Polka Wagon is going to play another lovely tune for us while we wait for our dinner to heat up. So I will turn it back over to them.
Where's Joel Dog? He took his camera off.
You guys are still muted.
Where's our sound on this one?
That wouldn't be very enjoyable, would it?
Yeah.
This is one of our favorite tunes called Off the Autobahn.
Very good job, y'all. It was awesome. I do want to note that in the chat, if you are doing any partying behind the screen, or you want to Instagram your delicious dinner this evening, I've put up all of our handles so you can tag us. Please tag us. We would love to see what you're doing and how you have set up your food and drink this evening. One thing I want to do before we move on to the second course is play a taped video greeting from the Vice Mayor of Magdeburg. So please bear with me while I share my screen and get that video started for you.
Hello, greetings from Magdeburg, Germany to all our friends in Nashville. I am Vice Mayor Klaus Zimmermann from Magdeburg. We have greatly enjoyed our sisters.
We can't see the screen, Sarah.
Since 2003. We hope enjoy your online Oktoberfest celebration this year.
Sarah, we can't see the screen.
Germany, Prost, viel.
Is it working?
We can hear the sound, but we're seeing your files. We're not seeing the video.
Give me 1 second. Okay.
So you may need to switch. I'm not sure if you're working on multiple screens.
No.
You may need to pull it over or.
Let's try this again.
Hello.
It's not working. Is it?
Greetings from Magdeburg.
We can hear it, but we're still seeing your files.
No, not here. It's in here. There.
Hello.
Is that
Greetings
working?
from Magdeburg, Germany.
No. Okay. Well, anyway, he sends his greetings. We will move on. Since I can't get that to work, I'm so sorry. So now I'm going to turn it over. I think I'm turning it back over to Scott to plate up the second dinner and get started with the second beer, which is the amber.
All right. As you start planning up that second dinner, one thing I failed to mention, my sales director is over in our tap room, and she kind of yelled at me when we were enjoying the Nashville Bavarian Helles Lager with the Bavarian pretzel from von Elrod's. I failed to mention this beer has won many awards, including international awards. 2 years ago in 2018, this particular beer won the World Beer Cup. It won silver. That's the largest beer competition in the entire world, and it won silver for the Bavarian Helles. And actually just 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, it won silver at the Great American Beer Festival, which was the largest beer competition in the United States with over 8,000 beers entered in that. So we were very stoked for that, and I failed to mention that earlier. So hope everyone enjoyed it, and it definitely goes well with that pretzel. Now, as you're plating up your second dish, we are having the Nashville Amber Lager. And this amber is very similar to what we would call an Oktoberfest Marzen beer, but it's not quite as malt forward. It's actually a Vienna lager. So go ahead and pour that in, and I'm going to turn it over to Hillary, and she can talk about what we're going to have it with, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the beer.
Thanks, Scott. So for those of you who have not been to Von Elrod's Beer Hall and Kitchen, we are located in Germantown here in Nashville, and our design and style is based off of the German beer halls. Our owner, Austin Ray, would go to Oktoberfest and loved that shoulder-to-shoulder atmosphere of people joining together over food and drinks, and we wanted to replicate that here. So we're taking one of our German sausages inspired by that. It's actually based off of a Thüringer roast bratwurst. It's known for subtle notes of garlic and toasted caraway. The bacon vinaigrette that's in that potato salad should pair really nicely with it. And of course, we believe that almost every bratwurst can be improved with kraut or caramelized onions. So we sent those with you guys as well. Honestly, there's, other than Thüringer, Germany being the original location for that particular roast bratwurst, it's honestly, as long as you're getting a really nice sear with that crunch. Our sausage makers, for those of you again who haven't been, if you come into the restaurant, there's this giant window and you can see right into our sausage room. So we do grind, season, and hand case all of our sausages in-house. That's one of those few things that we're very proud to set us apart from those around us by keeping those original inspired recipes, as well as some innovative ones we create right there in-house.
I will say Von Elrod just does a fantastic job giving you that German beer hall experience. You really feel like you're walking into a traditional beer hall when you go into Von Elrod's to eat and drink there. It's a really cool atmosphere.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone has their amber now and is enjoying their sausages and sides to go along with that. You'll see from the first beer we had, this beer is definitely a little bit darker. It's not real dark, but it truly is an amber color. And it, like I mentioned earlier, it is what is designed as a Vienna lager. Vienna lagers came out in the early 1840s. And that style, as German immigrants came to the United States in the mid 1800s, they brought along their brewing styles with them. And one thing I would like to point out is all the beers that we brew are traditional German lagers. We do not do any ales at Nashville Brewing Company. And we do brew according to the Reinheitsgebot. And the Germans watching right now can correct me on my pronunciation of that, but the Reinheitsgebot is the German purity law of 1416. Did I get there? 1516. It just had its 500-year anniversary, but that is the oldest food and beverage law in the world. And it says that you can only brew beer with barley malt, hops, and water. Now, we all know now that yeast is also an additional ingredient. They did not realize that 500 years ago, so they didn't have a microscope, but yeast is the magic that makes the alcohol happen. But they did not know that back then. But all of our beers are brewed according to that German purity law. And this particular beer uses Vienna malt, which is malted a little bit differently, gives it a little bit more color, a little bit more malt forward, and it goes perfect with the sausage you're having. So all of you enjoy that. We're going to listen to a little more music, as well as if you have any questions for Hillary or me or anything related to Nashville Sister Cities, just go ahead and put them in the chat box. And Sarah, I think, may open the mics up too. So we have questions. We'll do our best to answer them while you enjoy your dinner.
I'm happy to open up questions right now for a few minutes. If anyone has any questions or comments, we can chat a little bit before moving on.
Sarah, may I have a point of personal privilege? We have another Magdeburger on the screen, Dr. Klaus Puchter.
Welcome.
Formerly Deputy Mayor for Economic and Community Development, and my dear friend. He's came to Nashville in 1997 and went to a Vanderbilt football game, no less. We stayed at each other's homes, and he's just such a great guy and has supported this partnership on both sides. I don't know how many times Klaus has been to Nashville, at least 3, and so good to see him. And as the Queen said, we will meet again. So glad to have you, Klaus.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Warm welcomes from Magdeburg. It's nice to see you all. And it would be a better idea to start with a beer breakfast. Well, it's now middle in the night here in Germany. It's fine to see you all. Yeah, it's good to see you back. I think we know us since 93 or something like this. He came to the town hall and asked for Twin City. It was a little bit surprisingly for us because we didn't know what could we do with this American guy. But now it's nearby 30 years, our partnership, and it's wonderful. Yes, it's fine to see you all, and have a good evening. I think I go to bed later on because it's now very late. Yeah, best wishes from my side, and have a good evening. Well,
yeah. Thank you, Klaus.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions about the beer or the food? If not, I will.
I had one for Scott.
Yes.
Scott, how did you get started or interested in brewing German style beer?
All right. Well, from the German style standpoint, I'll get into that. Was gonna talk a little bit about Nashville Brewing Company and the history behind that, and I can start out answering how I got into it. If there's no other questions, then I'll kick into the German style Nashville Brewing Company. But I got first interested in beer when I was 6 years old. We were actually talking about this before we went live. My mom was a Girl Scout leader and took my older sister and her troop on a hike. And I got dragged along because there wasn't a babysitter for me, and I started picking up beer cans. So I started out as a beer can collector at 6 years old. At that time, my dad was traveling internationally for business, and so he started bringing me back beer cans. And then the people he was dealing with internationally would start mailing me beer cans. So I get these boxes from South Africa, Kenya, all throughout Europe, South America, Asia, Australia. So these boxes would come and be like Christmas all the time for me, and I'd open them up and I'd have 20, 30 beer cans from these different countries. And by the time I was in high school, I had about 3,000 different beer cans, and that's really what got me interested in beer. And again, it wasn't drinking at that time, it's just more the fascination of beer, the history, the styles, how I learned about geography. But by the time I got into high school, started getting into home brewing. And then I went to college, I went to Ohio State, and that made me very popular in the dorm that I was home brewing at that time. And then from there, I later moved to Tennessee and got involved in the brewing industry. And we could talk more a little bit about Nashville Brewing Company if we don't have any other questions right now.
Yeah, we can have Polka Wagon perform again for everyone while they finish their dinner, and then we'll move on to dessert after that.
Perfect.
We're going to play a beautiful waltz for you. Do you hear us?
And Polka Wagon, if they're not ready, I can go ahead and talk a little bit about the brewery itself.
They're just having a little bit of we couldn't really hear them. They're ready, but
okay.
Try again, guys.
Hello. Don't know what's going on. We've unmuted.
It's just soft. You can probably go ahead.
Okay. This is a beautiful waltz called the Snow Waltz or Schnee Waltz.
Sarah, I cannot see or hear them right now.
Thank you, guys. I love that music. It makes me feel like I'm on a carousel, and I love carousels, so thank you for that. I saw the vice mayor on here. I don't know if you saw the performance that Dracula and Gumby were giving earlier, but I wanted to just, let them know that it was appreciated, and thank you to the vice mayor for giving us a show earlier. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but now would be the time. He's shaking his head no. So we can move on to the third beer and dessert, because it is getting close to 7:45, which is when I said we would eat dessert. I will turn it over to Hillary and Scott to give you a little bit of information about our third beer, which is the Bach and the strudel.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. So the third beer is the Nashville Bach. And I would like to briefly, as you open this, enjoy it. It's going to be a higher alcohol beer, so keep that in mind. It's going to pair very well with your dessert that Hillary will talk about. I did want to mention that Nashville Brewing Company is a historic Nashville brewery that started in 1859 and operated until 1890. And we revamped that brewery. It was originally started in 1859 by German immigrants that came to Nashville. And those of you that are familiar with Nashville know about Germantown. And there's a large German immigration that came here to our city. And with that, they brought their brewing technology, brewing these lager beers, which prior to that, the United States was only familiar with ale. So lagers were very new at that time. And they brought that brewing tradition of these lagers. And so we kind of revamped the Nashville Brewing Company to brew traditional lagers like the German immigrants would have brewed them in the late 1800s. So that's really kind of our theme. Every beer that you're having tonight, as well as every beer, we kind of give some detail. It's in the very small print on the side about how that beer ties back to Germany, but also ties it to Nashville's history and how it came to Nashville and became that style of beer became popular in the United States. And also, I don't know if anyone ever looks at the bottom of the six-pack, but we always have, I have that upside down. We always have information about the brewery and the history and stuff on the bottom of each six-pack. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to Hillary, and we're going to talk about our dessert, and then I'll talk more about the Bach.
Scott, I just learned to look at the bottom of my six-packs.
Not everyone does that.
I know, but I mean, I'm going to start looking now. So again, please forgive me if I mispronounce this. We designed our apple turnover fritter based off an Apfeltasche. It's actually a German dessert. The oldest known recipe is actually from Rothaus, which is more Austria region from 1697. And we thought if we're going with a classic dessert, that's probably as classic can be, with a very simple apple filling, the pastry, and sugar on the top. I mean, I'm waiting for Scott to open this because I'm, gonna start looking at this now.
So I think everyone, their directions say you can heat that dessert. Is that right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's fine not to have heated, but I think it's definitely better if you heat it for a few seconds.
A little bit of warmth, either an oven, or this is one that you could toss in a microwave. It's actually one of the questions we do get at the restaurant is, can I just microwave something? Well, sadly, no, I don't have a microwave at the restaurant, but we use, other heat methods to get there. So while it is baked from us, a little bit of heat goes a long way. If you have ice cream or whipped cream with it, of course, always a great choice. We just did a very simple sugar topping before coating it so that you got a little bit of caramelization and crunch.
All right. So the Bach that you're having with that, if everyone has poured that and is already enjoying it, you can see it's quite a bit darker. And it's a little bit sweeter. And the reason why it's sweeter is it's got more malt in there. And what malt does is the natural sugars that are in the barley malt are what creates alcohol. So this beer has more alcohol in it. And there's a little bit of history of why this particular beer was made. And I will say also, this beer was bottled yesterday. This is probably the freshest beer you're ever going to get on the market because it truly was bottled yesterday. I brought it over to Von Elrod yesterday afternoon within hours of it being bottled, and you guys are drinking it today. So it literally is straight out of these tanks. and into your living rooms. But Bach beer, from a historical standpoint, Bach is German for goat. And you will see with any Bach beer advertising, there will be goats on the label. Always. Any beer you have, their Bach beer is going to have a goat on the label. And the goat is the strong, hardy animal of Bavaria. Think of a mountain goat, and it's the strong, hardy animal, and this beer is a strong, hardy beer. And traditionally, it was brewed by the monks in Bavaria during Lent. So this is our winter seasonal beer, and we release it starting in November and have it throughout the winter season. But traditionally, it was a Lenten beer where the Catholic monks would fast for those 6 weeks during Lent, but they were allowed to drink beer. And so with that, they would brew a stronger beer that would have higher calories to supplement their calorie intake during their fasting season, during those 6 weeks between Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. So I hope everyone enjoys this. Prost, it goes perfect with your dessert, and enjoy. Thank you.
Scott, what would, most of us here, consumers here, aren't that familiar with German Bach beer, but most of us know like a Guinness Stout. What would be the difference between Irish Guinness Stout and the German Bach beer?
So the main difference is the yeast. And so really there's two different styles of beer, I shouldn't say styles, two different types of beer. If you compare it to wine, you think of white wine and red wine, and then you got a ton of varieties. With beer, you have ales and lagers. And the difference is not the color, like with wine, the difference is the yeast. And ales are really, I mean, beer dates back almost 13,000 years is what records show. But even, you know, we have detailed records dating back 6,000, 7,000 years, showing that in Mesopotamia, they were making beer. And at that time, it was all ale. Ale is more of a room temperature yeast that would actively ferment beer or ferment the grains to create beer. And at that time, they really didn't even, I mean, they think it happened by accident. They think someone left some bread out in a bowl, it rained. So someone went back and ate the soggy bread after a few days that actually had fermented from the natural airborne yeast, got a buzz, thought, hey, this is pretty good. We need to figure out how to replicate this. And that's how beer got started. That truly is what scholars believe how beer got started. But over the centuries, not really over thousands of years, you know, migrated more into a science. And the Bavarian monks really, you know, kind of truly dedicated their life to make that a science outside of their religious aspects. But, you know, to answer your question, Guinness is a dark ale. And what makes it dark is just the roasted grains. And Guinness is actually, from a calorie standpoint and an alcohol standpoint, very low compared to a Bach. A lot of people are intimidated by Guinness because they think it's this very dark, thick beer, but it really has, you know, the calorie intake, I think, is about the same as a Budweiser, and the alcohol is the same. Bach is brewed purposely to have higher alcohol, but the color in the beer all comes from how the grains are roasted, and that really doesn't affect the alcohol. Just like with coffee, when you roast the grains more, it's darker and more bitter. With coffee, with beer, with the roasting the grains, you get the color, but that doesn't necessarily make it a stronger beer. It's the sugars and how much malt is added to the beer to create those fermentable sugars is what gets you the higher alcohol intake. I hope that answers your question between a Bach and a Guinness.
So, Counselor Meyer, I have a question for you. What is your favorite beer?
My favorite beer is wine. My favorite beer is actually from Magdeburg. Who wonders? It's a
Pilsner beer.
Yeah, made in Magdeburg, very close to me. Zudenburg, another part of the city. So that's what I like. But as Heike Fuller. I like to drink red wine, but beer is also fine.
Can we work out a trade? I'll send you some of our beer if you send me some of your beer.
I want in on that trade.
Frau Meyer, are you familiar with these upside down wine decanters?
Yeah.
Like here, I got these from Austria, actually. I've never, that's the only place I've ever seen them. Are they common also in Germany, or no?
I know them, but very common thing, no.
Yeah. They're really quite clever. You just put your glass up underneath and push, and the wine comes out. And this one even has a little tube for ice. So you can put white wine in here and keep it cold without the ice melting and diluting the wine. So
nice. I've only fridge.
I've actually done a number of trips to Germany. Everyone thinks of me as a beer guy, but I've been to a number of areas in Germany for the Riesling and just love it. So.
Yeah, next time we'll have to have maybe a German wine dinner.
Yeah.
I just want to open it up to anybody. Please feel free to ask questions, to chat, to tell us your favorite German food, anything. So I just want to make sure everybody feels like they can really participate in this dinner.
I think we have a question there, Hillary. Yeah.
That's it. There's a question in the chat here. It looks like, can the counselor tell us a little bit more about Magdeburg? What industries, the size of the city, etc.? Sent to us by Jim and Joe.
Okay, industries. Well, a lot. We were an old industry city, so when the GDR times were, we were like iron building city. Now it's more like new energies, wind energy. Size is 250,000 around. It's more like 240,000, but I say 250 because it sounds better.
Yeah, round up.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it's the best city in the world, of course. I'm counselor since 2009, so I have to love it, and I do love it, and I love my job. Favorite German food? Sauerkraut. Sauerkraut and beer is the best, I guess. Sausages and sauerkraut and beer. It's simple, but it's good, you know.
You just defined dinner.
Yeah.
Steffi Meyer, what are the rules of either Handball or soccer, beziehungsweise Fußball jetzt? Are they allowing the seasons to go forward, and how many spectators do they allow? What's going on with our teams?
They allowed a few. So in football and soccer, it was a few thousand because the stadium is bigger. And in handball, it was just a few hundred. But now all the big people and politicians decided that November will be some sort of a lockdown again. So there's no public allowed again.
No.
Just to make Christmas possible. So the celebrations, Christmas will be anyway, but you know.
And the Christmas market is going forward too. I think I read on your website.
Yeah. We have a new thing, the light world, as you might call it. That will be anyway. So if there is a market or not, the light world will be. It's a special light installations throughout the whole city that make a Christmas feeling and symbolize particular very, very well-known things in Magdeburg. So that is an attraction that will be built anyway. So yeah, it's all some sort of troubled at the moment. It should open up the Christmas market in November the 18th, but yeah, there will be no big celebration.
I saw recently that the Samsung Hankook Reifen
Yeah.
Is it opening a logistics center in Magdeburg? That was in the news recently. Is that going, I mean, how big is that, and how many jobs is that expected to bring, do you know?
I don't know. We have Amazon, we have IBM, we have all the big, but I don't know that. It's nothing that we can decide on. That's part of the professional legislation that is deciding on that, and I'm not into it enough to tell you about it. I don't want to lie. I don't know.
Okay. The other big thing in the news was that Magdeburg was one of the finalists for the cultural capital. Unfortunately, Chemnitz edged you out for that, which I don't understand, but that's.
It's fine. Chemnitz was our biggest enemy, as we. So I can live with it. It's okay.
There are so many wonderful cultural centers in Germany that it's amazing. So, but it was quite, I think, an honor to make the short list.
Yeah, and you always say being a part of it is enough, but here it's really true, because we have been working on that like for years, and I'm in the cultural department, working in the council. So it's been a joy. A lot of decisions could have not been made without this whole process of being part of,
So
I can't find the word,
the selection.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Councilmember Allen, and you may want to look at the chat because I cannot pronounce this word that's been written.
Straßenkreuz.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about the Wasserstraßenkreuz. Yeah, it's a part of the city again. We give the money to, restore it, and make it work. And all the workers, we pay for them. And it was a long process as well. And it is part of our identity.
So for the people who haven't been to Magdeburg, it sits on the Elbe, which is an important river for commerce. And the Magdeburgers have built a canal bridge where boats can cross over each other. You can see one boat up in the air going over another boat that's called a Wasserstraßenkreuz, which stands for Water Street Crossing. So I guess that's it. Anyway, it's amazing to look at. It's typical German ingenuity.
Yeah. Come here and take a ride.
I didn't have could I speak? Or?
Absolutely.
I'm Teddy, and this is my husband, Don, and we started out with Sister Cities when I was teaching at St. Cecilia, teaching Spanish, and we had a brief exchange with Argentina, with Mendoza. But what I am getting to a question, but I just wanted to say our son is teaching German at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. And while he was studying a lot overseas, and he was in Würzburg, and he was in Vienna and Salzburg, he was in Austria and Germany, we discovered something at the Christmas markets in Germany that everybody here needs now. And that is with this COVID, if you have a deck, it's getting kind of cold, but glue wine is this wonderful drink that we discovered that will make you very happy and warm you up. And you can sit 6 feet apart until it gets very cold and talk to each other. But what I wanted to ask, and I think the Volkswagen people left maybe, I was curious, I couldn't see that well. It looked like there were some instruments that I wasn't sure what they were. So I just wondered, I could tell the drum and I could tell the accordion, but there was something else that he was playing. He was blowing into, and he had something in front of, on top of the drums. And so I don't know if is the musical group gone or?
They're still here.
Oh, well, maybe they could tell us about their instruments, because maybe it's real common and I just couldn't see it that well, but I was interested, I was intrigued. But where are they?
Guys, are you muted still?
No.
For some reason not able to.
While we're waiting on them if we can patch them in, I mean, I'll comment on the Glühwein. My wife and I spent last Christmas in Germany and Austria and Hungary, and the Christmas markets there are just beautiful, particularly in Germany. Love the Christmas markets, love the Glühwein. Hillary, I'm not certain if that's something you do during the winter months, but I can talk to you about doing that. But it's basically a mulled wine, and it's fantastic. It'd be great in your environment there at Von Elrod's.
Oh yeah, with the beer garden, absolutely. We'd love to hear more about it.
It's red wine with lots of spices and some secret ingredient that I've forgotten what it is. Cloves, cloves stuck in an orange, and some other spices. I think some versions have anise and some versions have brown cloves. There's several different recipes, but it's very good. And I think that it has some water and some sugar too.
Goes great with roasted chestnuts.
Or those cookies, those special cookies they make that sort of they're gingerbready, but they're iced, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes.
We had our mic because of the musical instruments to automatically adjust, so it was just really low. Anyway, to answer your question, I have a Glockenspiel, which is just bells. It's a German Glockenspiel here I was playing for the Schneewalzer, the waltz. And then the thing I was blowing into is just a melodica. So I had a little tube. I usually have a big drum percussion set up, and this is one of the things in it. And it just allows me with the tube to keep my hands busy while I'm playing the keyboards on this. But it sounds like a harmonica and an accordion together type of a sound.
Awesome.
I was also impressed with the accordion, because I realized that you're playing on both sides and you really can't see your fingers on either one.
It's very true. Yeah, the left side, which is the button side, is facing away from me, so it's completely by touch. The keyboard side, the right side, I can kind of see at an angle barely, but the left hand I don't see at all. It's by touch only.
Well, my congratulations. It was very good, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no more questions, going once, going twice. I don't see anyone waving. I do want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. This is the point of Sister Cities, to stay connected and to be able to talk to each other and openly ask questions in an effort to exchange culture, exchange diversity, and to get to know one another and make friends. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I hope you will stay in touch with our programs. If you're new to our organization, please stay involved. Now I have your email, so you can't get away from me. Just kidding. But thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the food. I would love to talk to all of you about doing different dinners like this or different programs that you might find interesting. We have 9 sister cities in 8 different countries. Please check out our website. Please email me. My email is Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, @scnashville.org. I would love to talk to all of you. Thank you, Consul General Fuller, for joining us this evening. Thank you to Scott Murdy and Nashville Brewing Company. Thank you to Austin Ray and Hillary Holmes from Von Elrod. Thank you, Councilor Meyer, for joining us this evening. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Thank you to Council Member Berkeley Allen, and to Doug Barry, and to Vice Mayor Schulman, and Gumby. I see him being pointed furiously at. And just all of you. This is of course been a wonderful experience, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Scott, I don't, it looked like you had some last words to say.
I was going to say, if I can make one request before we close out, if we can close out with a song from Bhagavir.
If only if they're up for it. So, put them on the spot.
I didn't mean to do that, but they're definitely a success and very talented, and we'll love to hear another song.
Yes, thank you. You guys are extremely talented, and I have enjoyed listening to that music. It's very heartwarming.
Okay. Unless there's something specific you wanted to hear, we'll just do I'm Prosit again.
I'm from the Midwest, and it's a traditional Midwestern polka song, but She's Too Fat for Me I love that polka song. I know it's not traditional German, but if you guys want to do that, great. Otherwise, do whatever you want.
We'll do an instrumental version of Fat Polka if that's what you'd like.
That's fine, unless anyone else has any other requests.
I'll be fine. Ready? We're gearing up here.
All right.
Are we closing out?
Yeah, well, you guys can close the show. So thanks again, everybody. And as soon as they're done, we can, I guess our German friends can go back to bed, and the rest of us can wind down for the night.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 1.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Well done.
Thank
Sarah.
you, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank
Well
you
done.
all so
Thank
much.
you.
Sure to
Thank you, Sarah, for hosting this.
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Let's do it again soon.
Great.
Thank you, Steffi. Thank you, Jim Schulman. Terrific job. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.